Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm back at the refugee camp, as I used to call my grandma's house. Back when I was living in Memphis. Of course, I'm not living there anymore, but I thought I'd go ahead and make this video. With the time, within the time span that I have, before I go on to work, because I think it's definitely time, considering you know, current events and whatnot, as far as what happened to the late David Carroll. And I have been intent on making it, because I consider myself a disciple, quite literally a disciple of the late David Carroll, God rest, due to the fact that in the subject, just in the subject of what I like to call, in layman's terms, Negroology. Um, I guess a more proper word would probably be it would be Negro psychology or Negro pathology. But I like to keep it layman's terms and just stick to what I call Negroology. And it's not so much that I've been busy, as much as it is that I ended up I got stuff all over my room, and I'm effed around and lost my camera and whatnot. I'm still looking for the USB cord to attach it to, so that I can upload the video. But hopefully that's around, so I can I can go ahead and upload this video and whatnot. So it's with a heavy heart that I have to say that, as sad and as tragic as it is that David Carroll is no longer with us, that I'm not as surprised as I thought I would be, nor am I as aggrieved as I thought I would be. Hearing about his untimely demise. And I know it was untimely because he was only 56 years old. And it's not out of any kind of malice that I say this, because I consider myself a disciple of David Carroll, as far as understanding where I stand with the community, understanding where I stand with this what we call the scraggle daggle, and just the outright overall general mentality of what he used to refer to as this buck dancing, bojangling, shoe shining, cooning and buffooning, step and fetch it Negro, shine Negro. But I think because I'd been so fucked up about the Dolph situation, as well as Moses McCormick, I was so aggrieved. It was like adding shit on top of shit, because those men were murdered. So hearing of David Carroll, dying of apparently natural causes, it didn't sting nearly as bad as I thought it would. Like I said, as aggrieved and as sad as I am, and I'm gonna just keep it a stat that I low-key saw it coming. As terrible of a thing as that is to say, I kind of knew that it was only a matter of time before David Carroll would no longer be with us. So, I couldn't put my finger on it. I mean, I don't know if it was the vibe that he carried or if it was just the simple fact that, I mean, with all due respect, the man smoked like a chimney. So, um, I don't know, man. I can imagine it's rough, and Lord definitely knows that I'm most definitely going to miss. And I've actually put that on someone's YouTube channel in the comment thread. How I will most definitely miss his Saturday sermons regarding this shine, regarding to what he referred to as this black bitch. And sometimes he referred to her as the nigger bitch. And I've often said nigger bitch, but I go out of my way to try to avoid saying such terms because back in the day, before we started getting, before YouTube started flagging us and shit, we would just go in. We'd be calling, the buck dance and bojangling, step and fetch it. That's why he had to that's exactly why he had to make those rabbit hole productions, because he'd be saying nigger bitch this, nigger pastor that. So it's because of YouTube guidelines that you kind of have to make an effort to not say those things and not use those use those terms. Even as a black person, saying the word nigger, not nigga, you at knowing these days you at risk of landing in some hot water, even as a black person. And they'd add bitch, as a add bitch to the word. And somebody hear that, they'll be the first one to flag your shit, report it to YouTube. But anyway, just like Moses, delivered great content as far as demonstrating his ability. Now, I'm not gonna give the man credit as far as his teaching abilities, because I find those questionable. I'm not gonna say that they were bad, but I'm not gonna just sit up here and say that he put out the best content as far as teaching those languages. But what he did do is he put out great content as far as demonstrating his ability to speak those languages. And likewise, David Carroll definitely played a role and did his part as far as educating us, especially us specifically black men, on where we stand with the community. Because there's some things out there that let you know where you stand with the overall society. Buffoons like Umar Johnson, and buffoons like, yeah, let me go ahead and say it, Tariq Nasheed. That's why I believe in, sometimes you just got to take the message and then leave the messenger, because these men have put out great content on where we stand in a white supremacist laden society, no doubt. Both of those men have accomplished that. And there are other men as well, like I believe his name's Dr. Fuller. I'm trying to think of his whole name, but I'll just stick to Dr. Fuller. And you have, of course, the late Honorable Dr. John Henrik Clarke. And of course, the Honorable Malcolm X. But that's old school generation. So I look at Tariq and Dr. Umar Johnson, like as far as being the educators of our generation, concerning white supremacy. But where these men have indeed failed is teaching us an element of white supremacy that is so clandestine and so masquerading that it doesn't even have to be there to destroy you. And that element is the community. That element is the democratic plantation. That plantation that we know as the Democratic Party. White liberals who orchestrate all of this shit. The elements within the community. That's where David Carroll came into play. He taught us to look internally, not externally, which no doubt does exist. I mean, you know, David Carroll didn't put so much pressure on, external forces like racism and whatnot that, black people do indeed suffer from. Hold on a minute, y'all. Damn computer trying to lock me out of my own. And I know I'm putting in the password, but yeah, I got it running. Talking about this laptop I got. But this garbage ass thing, I had it for about 3 years and it's already going limp dick on me. So that's just another part of my New Year's resolution, if you will, is I gotta get I don't want one, but I gotta get another laptop. So I guess add that onto my New Year's resolution, right? Shoot. But David Carroll, the role that David Carroll played was basically breaking down the fabric of the community and breaking down the psychology of whom we know as this Negro. And all his buffoonery and all his shenanigans, as well as the pieces, the puppeteers, if you will, the upper levels who basically placate to the outright destruction of the black community. The headliners, the head players, being one part being the white liberals who orchestrate a good majority of this bullshit that we know as the community, and then breaking it down to the black pastor and breaking it down to this black woman who single-handedly in and of herself is solely responsible for the destruction of Blackistans that you see all throughout this country. Black women hold the highest abortion rates in this country. And I've stated this in older videos that, of course, I've deleted. Videos that I made back when I was living in Memphis. Black women are, due to the fact that they operate under the Section 8 welfare housing and basically on some I don't need no man shit. She has taken the reins as being being solely responsible for the rearing of black children And when we see the fruits of her labor, based off of her claim that I can rear this boy into manhood, or I can rear this girl into womanhood, it goes without saying we don't even have to speak on the fruits of what that yielded. Hell, all we have to do to figure that out is just look at, if some of y'all were fortunate enough to never experience the wrath of the community, you need look no further than just look at look at shows on TV like Raising Canaan, right? You need look no further than looking at movies from the 90s like Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society. Shows that depict the realities of Blackistans all across this country. Or yeah, The Wire too. I was thinking about that. Like yeah, series like The Wire. Hell, look no further. Because if you're a chess player, and this is exactly why I go out of my way to study chess. I mean, I don't plan on being no high-ranking player anytime soon. But I like to think that I'm currently at a rank of 1800, or I can at least compete at 1800. But look at it from a chess playing point of view. If you have so-called white liberals who've already demonstrated their vitriol and hatred for you and outright desire to eliminate you from the earth, coming into your community with under the guise of a buck dancing, bojangling pastor selling you this garbage about some Planned Parenthood, about abortion, that in and of itself ought to be questionable. That in and of itself ought to be sus. Let alone outright, blatantly, against those people. Something like that. It should dawn on a said people that these motherfuckers trying to get rid of us. They're setting up. They're creating, they're orchestrating conditions in our community by which some people get benefits and set-asides, mostly female, others don't. They don't set up things like Kaplan and things to get you prepared for standardized tests like they do over in the in their communities. But in your community they got liquor stores and gun stores, just like Lawrence Fishburne's character was talking about in Boys in the Hood. They got Planned Parenthood clinics all throughout, and you notice, do they have them in their neighborhoods or do they have them in yours? They have them in yours. Planned Parenthood clinics, abortion clinics. A chess playing people, a chess like thinking people would have picked up on that. But let's face it. Let's just face it. The vast majority of black people are not chess playing people. The vast majority of black people are checker playing people. David Carroll pointed that out for us. How all of this is set up. And like I said, he didn't really attack racism. He didn't really attack, white supremacy so much as just and I see where he was coming from, because the thing about it is, even if you are dealing with someone who is racist, someone who just has it out for you just by the default of you being a darker hued man. I'm like, well, hell, if you're racist and I know that, then why in the hell would I accept anything from you? Why in the hell would I, even if it was beneficial to me? Because it may not be, it'll be beneficial to me, and I'm saying this like, from the perspective of a black woman. It may be beneficial to me, but I answer to my man. Is it beneficial for him? Oh no, it's not beneficial for him, because my man can't even be present if I'm going to get these Section 8 welfare benefits. I can't have that man in the house. So, the thing about it is that he was pointing out that even with the efforts that, racist libtards who genuinely are racist, they come with a whole different kind of racism. Instead of telling you to stay your black ass over there, we don't want you over here. They're like, no, come on in. We'll let you in. And I've personally experienced that kind of or I've witnessed it and I've experienced it. There is a different kind of racism that lets you in, but you're not equal with them. We'll let you in. We'll accept you as long as you kiss the ring. As long as you kiss the ring, yeah, we'll accept you. You're not one of us, but we'll accept you. We'll let you in. So in other words, you get to be a pet. You get to be a pet. You get to be a hold on, y'all. Damn. You get to be a tool. You don't get to be a thinking man, something that, they never, and a lot of people are actually surprised. Woman dead after shooting at Walgreens. Jesus fucking Christ. Only in Memphis. Only in Memphis. And it's because of David Carroll's content that I was able to assess my situation back in Memphis, and how a lot of his talking points definitely applied to, the conditions that I had to face during my time in Memphis. Which is why I just ultimately concluded it's time to get... Hold on, y'all. I'm hunting for some grub. I forgot I put it out. Yeah, y'all, forgive me. I was looking for my my lo mein noodles. I think I'll eat a little bit before I go. Y'all forgive me if I'm smacking. I don't think I smacked. I mean, hell, I chew with my mouth closed. Be up here chewing and slurping, and not nearly as much as you want to see some smacking motherfuckers when it comes to noodles. Look no further than the Japanese. But I was able to assess my situation as far as where I stood in Memphian society, let alone the community as a whole, which, ultimately led me to getting the fuck up out of there. So, like I said, and that was actually the time, ironically enough, that was the time that I had graduated from college. And that year, the year after, like 2015, because I graduated in 2014, 2015 was the year that I ran into David Carroll's content when the Freddie Gray situation had taken off, and I remember his very first well, to me it was the first. I don't know if it was his very first video, but it was the first video that I had run into, being the Baltimore riots, and concerning the Freddie Gray situation, and just how hilarious it was. I mean, it was some real talking points. It was real talk, but at the same time, the way he described this Negro and calling him all kinds of shines, and to me, it was a new experience, and it was just hilarious. It had me rolling. So, yeah, shortly after I had subscribed to his channel, and like I said, he was just dropping gems. It might be David Carroll who's, I'm not going to say he's solely responsible, but he's definitely one of the motivating factors as far as why my black asses ain't in Memphis no more. While I can look from afar on my laptop some 1,000 miles away and looking at the carnage, like what I'm looking at right now on News Channel 3's, WREG's website, from 1,000 miles away, looking at, Shay Arthur reporting about a fight during a hair appointment leading to a shooting. Woman dead after shooting at Walgreens, police say. That coming out of that Democratic plantation known as Blackistan that we can find all throughout this country, and I just happen to come from one of those, known as Memphis, Tennessee, which is why I had to get the fuck up out of there, because it just wasn't doing nothing for me. It wasn't doing nothing for me being on that Democratic plantation where I'm up here stuck with a bunch of bojangling, buck dancing pickaninnies, cooning and buffooning, shoe shining, and doing quite literally nothing short of what you would find on the Boondocks when they describe, every time they describe slavery. Where every time Uncle Ruckus would describe slavery, where he would be like, you think niggas are lazy now? Lord help me, you should have seen them back then. Yeah, I think that was the one where they were talking about Catcher Freeman. As hilarious as the as hilarious as the Boondocks is, there's a lot of truth in it. And like I said, that's the course and the path that caused me to do what I had to do to come out here, so that I can have a base from which I can establish my own economy. Something that I'm currently working on right now, based on the skills that I built over these past 20 odd years. Figuring out my talents that were not cultivated, talents that were not encouraged, talents that were not inspired by anyone other than myself. Okay? That's the situation. That's the prognosis. All right? And like I said, David Carroll's teachings, David Carroll's Saturday sermons, and his Rabbit Hole productions allowed me to see the light. so that I can just, I ain't gotta look, I don't have to feel beholden to this thing called the community. I can see it for the deception that it is, and see that it's just as abrasive, if not even more abrasive than, the laws that, all these, not laws, but, all these practices that go on outside of the community, with gentrification and systemic miseducation. I'm like, hell, if we're gonna truly fight, if we're gonna truly stand on the battlefield against systemic white supremacy, we can't exclude participants in it and of it, even if they look like us. Don't you think? We have to out these people as traitors. And let's face it, this ghetto hood rat culture, and I'll even give you another mentor who's definitely knocking, that just by his age alone, he's definitely knocking on heaven's door if he hasn't already. Thomas Sowell. Now, Thomas Sowell has been labeled by some of these black activists like Tariq as a coon, but without a Thomas Sowell, how would we have even known that so-called ghetto hood rat hyena culture is nothing more than a derivative of backwards ass European culture? How would we know that without Thomas Sowell's I believe it was called Black Rednecks, White Liberals? I think that's the name. Don't quote me on that. I think that's the name of his book. And I don't have the book, I just listened to the audio book. Ghetto hood rat hyena culture is nothing more than a bastardization of the lowest of the low in the parts of the UK. Without a Thomas Sowell, how would we have known that? How would we have known that? If had he not authored said book, giving us that kind of information, we wouldn't have known that. And likewise with David Carroll's books, that we would, not books, but his videos and Rabbit Hole Productions, we wouldn't have known where we stood as functional, decent, halfway decent black men. Hell, we wouldn't have stood. We wouldn't have understood where we stand with these people. You can look at the Hebrew Israelites, but that and I believe with the children of Judah, with the children of Israel. But that, listening from them shine bones, that's only gonna take you so far, bro. I'm sorry. A lot of them motherfuckers don't even speak Hebrew, but you want to claim the Hebrew lineage. But as a language enthusiast, I would beseech to you that you should at least get a hold of your language, or some derivative of it, even if it's modern Hebrew. I don't speak biblical Hebrew, but I do speak modern Hebrew. Just like the Japanese person of the day doesn't speak old Japanese, they speak today's Japanese, Hyojungo, standard Japanese. And you would be sitting up there arguing, going into back and forths, arguing with this Hebrew shine got on some. If y'all seen them on the streets, these shines will have on some. I'm running short on time. I got about 10 minutes at best before I got to get going. But these shines will have on some plastic gauntlets. And he did a video on the whole thing between the Hebrew Israelites and the Nation of Islam, and how they're one and the same. And just by their demeanor, just by their dress, I can take the Nation of Islam way more serious than I ever could, these so-called chapters of the so-called Hebrew Israelites. I'm like, and I go right up to him and be like, a 10 lo medaber ivri. You're like, you don't speak Hebrew, Negro. Atem Lomodim Ivri. Lomedim Ivri. You don't study Hebrew. You don't speak Hebrew. You don't study Hebrew. But you claiming the Hebrew is, you claiming the Hebrew lineage, and you gonna give that lineage to a group of people whom you claim to be the what do they call them, the Amalekites, but also the Khazars, the Khazars. But so you gonna give your lineage up to them? You gonna give your heritage up to them? And they know everything, and they know anything and everything about that. But that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. I'm just saying though. It took, my point is, it took men like the Thomas Sowells of the world, the David Carrolls of the world, to see where I stand as a black man in America. That's, if not the world stage as a whole. If not the world stage as a whole. So I thank God for men like David Carroll, and I knew that it was only a matter of time before, I low-key saw this coming, and like I said, I'm not nearly as aggrieved as a result, because I knew it was only a matter of time. And it's not like he was just like I took him as an old man. No, he died before his time. He definitely died an untimely death, and as unfortunate as that is, I low-key saw that coming, because like I said, the man smoked like a chimney. He probably wasn't taking care of his health like that, but he definitely laced us. He armed us with truth, with game, with everything we need to know when it comes to the strag, and everything we need to know when it comes to the black pastor, and everything we need to know when it comes to the communitard, the white liberal, and all the puppeteers therein and thereof, and all that we need to know when it comes to the buck dancing, bojangling. Let me just do it for old times. Let me just say it for old time's sake, to say rest in peace, to indeed say rest in peace, our brother, the Honorable David Michael Carroll, the buck dancing, bojangling, step and fetch it, watermelon slicing, carp eating, shoe shining, cooning and buffooning, shinebone. He laced us with everything we need to know, so that we know where we stand, so that when we move, we know how to move now. Some places, and because of that, you go to a fucking place that, you notice that the demographic is a little dark. You notice that the demographic kind of looks like you. I'm like, oh, hell no. Like, I ain't finna go up in there. And it's because of that, now that I'm in this new city, there's this, I guess not suburb, but, y'all, hell no, not a suburb, but there's this, sub-city called Aurora, which is basically where they got all the ethnic people gentrified. See, I live in Denver, and the fact that so many people ask me, do I stay in Aurora, tells me the content, tells me of the fabric of Aurora. As a black person living in Colorado, I'm expected to live in Aurora. You know why? Because that's where the vast majority of black people live, in Aurora. And even though there are definitely some good parts of Aurora, there's some really bad parts of Aurora, and those Negroes tend to live there. Negroes tend to live in those bad places. And because of David Carroll's content, I know to stay my black ass out of places like Aurora. And don't get me wrong, Aurora definitely, quote unquote, enjoys its share of ethnicity. There's Burmese people there. There are all kinds of people from but unfortunately a lot of these people are refugees. And they bring, and as much as attuned as I am with foreign languages, I have to realize, not to put a shot at Burmese people, but some people, like, you got a lot of Africans, you got a lot of South Asians, like Bangladeshi people, Middle Easterners. A lot of them be bringing that dust with them too. And that's what makes, this city so damn interesting. And of course, Latinos, no doubt, definitely them. So they be bringing their destinies within, and that's what makes up the fabric of Aurora. I mean, Aurora's dusty as fuck. And like I said, because of what I know of the community, I know to stay my black ass up out of Aurora. Some places you ain't got no business being in. It ain't necessarily you ain't necessarily got to live with some rich folk, but you got to make sure that you at least living with some people who got enough sense to recognize the property value of their homes, so that if they try to sell their homes to someone, those customers, those buyers feel safe enough to live there and not have to worry about somebody pulling a drive-by in that area. David Carroll gave us that, right? So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I gotta get ready for work, y'all. But let me just leave that with rest in peace to the Honorable David Michael Carroll. I hope he's in a better place, and I hope that God at least gave him a chance to do, and I kind of, another thing that gave it away is that I knew, because, in his last video, you could kind of tell that he wasn't feeling so good, but I didn't think that would be, his last stop on earth. But one thing that kind of gave it away is that he said that when he died that he was going to stand before God and he was going to ask God, can you finally give me the answer to this joke of this race that we know as the Negro? With any luck, the Lord did let him in heaven due to hopefully he recognized them as doing the Lord's work. But, he also said that if God banished him to hell, he said that, before you banish me to hell, you have to tell me, before you banish me to hell, you have to tell me he said, before you banish me to hell, you have to tell me that you had to have been joking when you created this race known as the Negro. And with any kind of luck, I hope that God gave our brother, the Honorable David Carroll, a genuine answer, because I too, when I stand before God Almighty, the creator of the heavens and the earth, I intend to ask the same exact thing. I intend to ask God the same exact thing. This joke of a race that we know as the buck dancing, bojangling, step and fetch it, shoe shining, watermelon slicing, carp eating, pickaninny Negro. So to that I say rest in power to our brother David Carroll, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. And I'm out.